Welcome to the Growth Podcast. Today I'm with my guest, Chris Lee, who teaches, educates, and consults on brain-based wellness and neuroscience. Welcome to the Growth Podcast, buddy. Tongue twister, and I got it done.
Nailed it, man.
Nailed
Thank you
it.
so much for having me. I'm so grateful that we connected and super excited to talk today.
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking brain, neuroscience, all this stuff. So I'm very excited to listen and chat with you here today. For the listeners of the Growth Podcast out there who just don't know you as well as I do, before we jump in, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So I followed all the rules, right? I was one of those really good rule followers. Go to school, ended up getting a scholarship for sports to go play in college. Life was dandy, kept going to school, started to go into my doctorate a little bit. And then about a quarter of the way through my doctorate, life hit me like a truck, but really as a black SUV. Just got finished up with my midterms. So I was doing what any super broke doctorate student was going to do, is going to go home, watch Friends with a really cheap bottle of wine, some dark chocolate, and just cry it all out, right? Just doing the classic way you're supposed to do it. But in those days, I loved to ride my bike. I was in Atlanta going back and forth to class. It was beautiful. So I was on my way home, and this SUV blew a stop sign and smoked me and my bike into a ditch. Woke up a couple hours later in the ditch. The dude didn't stop. And I was in such a daze that I ended up walking myself home, passed out in the living room. Thank goodness my brother, who's also getting his doctorate, picked me up, took me into the bed, started doing examinations, check everything out. Long story short, took me to the hospital, had all these internal lacerations going on, what they thought was like a bucket handle fracture in my hips, which for those of you that don't know what that is, just not good, something that you don't really want going on. So I was catheterized as a young man, which is just really traumatic, just a lot of nasty stuff going on. I was put on bed rest. They said I wasn't going to run for about 18 months the way I used to, which really sucked because I'd been an athlete my whole life. I love to move, and they're like, go sit in bed. I was like, well, I have 40 hours of class minimum a week that I need to go attend. So I started to sink into this depression. About 2 weeks into my physical body healing, got the call that changed my life forever. Got a call from somebody I haven't spoken to in about a year, calling me to say, you need to go home, call your brother and get him home too. I'm on my way to your place. Ended up calling my brother. My brother helps me get out of bed, roll up. This gentleman comes in and says, your dad has died. Completely broke, shattered me to pieces. And not only had he died, he had made the choice to leave. He had committed suicide. So now that my body is completely broken and my energy and my spirit is completely crushed now, I'm just at like ground level, just waiting for that next thing to happen, just trying to find out who the heck I am, what the heck is going on, like what did I do to deserve this? So the body does what it naturally does no matter what. So it started to heal. I went to the hospital and I said, you need to get all these bandages, need to get all these things off of me. I just can't sit inside anymore. I have to go outside. I have to go walk around. Like nature had always been my release. And 3 months after that procedure was done, I was able to walk a little bit in huge amounts of pain. But my body was well enough for me at the time to get my partner pregnant. So now I was 22 years old, body's still completely broken, just lost my dad, baby on the way. And that same day I got my bill for school, which is about $250,000. And I started to build this construct and this belief system that just bad things happen to me. And that was just what I started to anticipate until one day in my darkest of dark moments, I tried to do the absolute worst and just hit that reset button. Ended up being extraordinarily unsuccessful in a way, but the best moment of my entire life. And it was inside of a Waffle House bathroom, purging and throwing up, that I asked the waitress that was taking care of me, who I am eternally grateful for a napkin and a pen. And what I did is wrote a declaration on that napkin that no matter what, I will be better tomorrow than I am today. And that was just about 4 years ago. And I haven't stopped since then. Started to go into the nervous system and understand, why is my brain creating these belief-based systems and going down like the energetics path, which I just couldn't understand at the time. So I went back to science and then was using science to prove spirituality and to prove all these different things. And I, step by step, 1% at a time, started to change the way I was understanding Chris and the reality that I was living. And still to this day, I'm still doing that same thing.
Holy, that's intense.
It was, yeah, crazy.
That's intense. That's intense. I hear a lot of intense stories. That's intense, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
The process of it in and of itself, the way I look at it now it was preparing me for what I do today. Yeah. Because I help a lot of people that have these like PTSD symptoms, a lot of people with depression, anxiety, and recovery, but also helping people use their nervous system for performance. Because, you know, as an entrepreneur and a lot of entrepreneurs out there, it's not about really pushing, right? That's a short term. You're going to get fatigued if you're constantly pushing. It's about being pulled in the direction of passion and purpose. If you can live a life through those things and through those elements, your internal pharmacy, your internal chemistry set will guide you into those actions and to that motivation that will drive you to do anything. Allowed me to have a child, finish my doctorate, start this beautiful consulting business that I have now, and to do what I'm doing exactly today. And I get to go out and paddleboard and spend most of my days with my beautiful daughter, Phoenix, and just do all these extraordinary things. And I'm sure you would agree. I mean, success is never just an oopsie daisies. It's always just like, you got so lucky. And it's like, no, this was a plan, right? This was pure alignment and it was work.
And it's structural, right?
Absolutely.
Structural. Okay. So let's just take a step back real quick. When you were going through that emotional time, I mean, it's always an emotional time, but when you're going through that downward spiral, because, you know, a lot of the people listening are either in one now or they've been in one or they will be in one. It happens to everybody. I had my moment somewhat similar. You know, I was in the Philippines. I was broke, lost everything, feeling just down on myself and just feeling like a loser. Like I didn't have my shit together, you know, and I knew it and I realized it. And that was my moment where I decided also, you know, this is the worst that I'm going to react to situations. I need to change the way that I view myself. That was the step for me. And so for someone listening who's either there right now or knows what we're talking about, because everybody feels that at some point, what was the biggest struggle that you were feeling internally, maybe that nobody else knew about?
So it's an interesting question because I'm going through another season right now of this transformation, and I'm having a lot of those similar emotions come up, but I'm seeing them in a totally different way. Yeah. So the thing that came up so much for me was this feeling of hopelessness, that no matter what I was going to do, no matter what I was going to do, interact with on my own energetic, spiritual, like mental, emotional, professional, I was always going to be bound to these labels. And it was those labels and that thought process and that program that I was constantly thinking and constantly experiencing that was confining me in this box of belief. And it was that realization that I had built these labels myself. No one else, with all the love in the world, really gives a crap. Like nobody really cares at all. So if I really made this construction, I am believing and experiencing that reality of those belief systems, I can absolutely brick by brick take those down as well. And okay, if they got built up through hopelessness and lack of understanding and frustration, what I need is empowerment, motivation, inspiration, knowledge. So that's where I went. That was that first thing. I needed something outside of my own paradigms, outside of my own beliefs, outside of my own understanding to help me grasp onto something. Because you can't anchor an unanchored mind to anything else, right? So I started to anchor myself. What beliefs do I want? Right? Your nervous system by default immediately shows you that which you don't have and then reinforces it with negative behaviors. Because the things that you want are typically outside of your comfort zone. And outside of your comfort zone lies danger. It's the unknown, the unexpected. And that's where you can get hurt. But that's also where all of that growth lies. But we just create these boxes for ourselves and then define and label and rinse and repeat until we finally get to that breaking point where God, spirit, universe, creator, whatever you want to call it, says, nope, you got more to give, and it'll help push you out of that comfort zone. And that's where things get uncomfortable. If you don't provide the push, someone will provide the shove.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So much yes there. Awesome. It's awesome. I love it. It's so true. So with that in mind, the growth podcast, right? One of the segments that I have when I feel the pull, which I'm feeling now, is we talk about the seeds, planting the seeds, right? Don't judge your harvest by today, judge it by the seeds you're planting type methodology, right? So when you were looking to make a transformation, when you hit your breaking point, just like when I did, and you're looking to change your behaviors, implement new habits, read new books, take on new content, change your mentors, get mentors, all of these things. This is a moment where a lot of people feel overwhelmed because, again, they're defaulting back to fear and they don't want to take that step, which is natural. So my question for you is, in that moment, do you have any resources, maybe books or people or things or anything that comes to mind that you would recommend for people that they could go out and consume that can help give them that nudge?
1000%. So your emotional experiences have no bias until the rational frontal cortex, that thinking mind of yours, defines it. So if you can step beyond that thinking mind for a second and just experience the emotion for what it is, that's where you start to extract the lessons. So when I go into schools and I start to make sense and teach mindfulness and the neuroscience to kids, I usually work with kids that have had some traumatic challenges in their life. And I'm like, okay, can you describe the feeling to me a little bit? And they're, I have some butterflies in my stomach and my chest just feels like a little bit tight. And I go, cool. And I go grab the teacher's chair and I said, can you sit in this? I'm going to spin you around. And they go, yeah, sure. And I grab the chair and I just whip them around for like 30 seconds. Then I have them get up and they're always giggling and always laughing. I'm like, what do you feel right now? And they're like, oh, I got these like weird butterflies in my stomach and I have this like tightness in my chest and like I'm laughing. I'm like, do you feel the same in your body now as you did before? And they're like, oh, well, yeah, I really do. And I'm like, so what's changed? Right. And they're like, well, I guess it's just the way that I'm thinking about it. And that was the secret to it. Your experiences inside your body are going to be consistent. It's the biases and the belief systems behind them that we really need to take a deeper look at. So the best thing is not a resource. It's the thing that you and I were talking about before we started recording. It's a pen and a piece of paper. Because there's so many books out there, and that's another like doing thing, right? We are so into the doing and we're so into the consuming that what we need more of is being. We need more things that are going to drop us back into the things that are important, that are going to give you that little bit of stretch to make you think and feel differently. And for me, the thing that's allowed me to discover and rediscover and forgive and understand myself more than anything has been my 5-cent Bic pen and a yellow legal pad and writing down, where am I? What do I want? What am I experiencing? And then just writing down and looking at that thing and just saying, okay, is this true? Right? Because your default nervous system, that fight or flight system that's just been super wired for 100,000 years, will lie, steal, and cheat its way to keeping you safe. Yeah. It's just a really, really good grandma. But there's no growth there, right? Yeah. There's nothing there. So you need to go beyond. Sometimes you need to push against those belief systems because 9 times out of 10, they're just BS. They're just trying to protect you, right? That ego is really trying to protect you. It's got nothing against you, but we need to have some of that challenge in our system. And that always, the only sustainable way to do that has to come from inside out. You at some point in your life need to get the courage to look down at a piece of paper or in the mirror and ask yourself, is this the life that I want to live? And if it's not, phenomenal, right? Now we have a starting point. What is it that you do want? right? What you put into the nervous system activates the reticular activating system. This is essentially Google and a GPS for what it is that you're seeking. But by default, you're focusing on that which you don't want. So you see that more. And the more you see it, the more it reinforces that neurological pattern. And the more you reinforce that neurological pattern, the less you're able to think about and put the blockades up. And the more it just becomes an automatic reflex. Like if you tap somebody's knee, the leg kicks. Same thing happens with our emotional and physical triggers in our life. It just becomes reactive instead of being responsive. So it's putting that line in the sand and having some checks and balances in our everyday life to say, well, okay, I'm doing this, but I want to do things differently, right? It's that Einstein quote. You can't fix a problem at the same level it was created. Beautifully said, really fantastic physics term, also applies to a micro level within ourselves. So how can you step out of yourself for a moment, step out of your daily life, do something differently that's going to cause you to think and feel differently?
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the mirror. You know, me personally, the day, I'll never forget it. You know how you're anchored when you have an emotional attachment to an event, right? The day that I really broke, was like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years, maybe a year and a half ago. And it was a mirror. I was doing mirror work. I was looking in the mirror and I was asking myself those really hard questions, you know, are you happy with where you're at? Are you happy with your this, that, the other thing? And I was just looking deep in there. And, you know, it's crazy in a mirror because you can see infinite reflections of yourself, right? You reflect your eye into the mirror, into the eye, into the mirror, and it's like a tunnel. And I was just so deep in there and I just completely broke, man. Something happened and I just went, whoa. It removed all of the smoke screen that I had put up in front of myself to protect myself. Yeah. It removed the BS. And I felt like that was the first moment I was me in my life, which is crazy. I was like, oh, that's you. There you are. And then from that moment forward, from there forward, everything changed. My daily routine, the way I thought about things, my goals, my dreams and desires, literally everything changed in like, it was in a split second. So, and I've spoken to many people who have this type of experience from different triggers or whatever. What is that?
That's such a good question. So for those of you that don't understand or haven't heard of mirror work before, all it takes is a reflection of yourself. So as humans, we've really evolved to have family and community and culture. And for a long period of time in our evolutionary history, we didn't have spoken language. We just had, you know, these raw body language emotions that we would express. And if you look at the facial muscles, there's so many different complex variations of how we interact with each other. Most of that and a lot of that we're recognizing is all in the eyes and the ways that the eyes are moving, the pupil constricts. And a lot of the really fascinating research that's coming out is actually showing that when you're like making direct eye contact with somebody, our evolutionary history has allowed us the ability to do something called entrainment, which is syncing our brain waves together so that you can be in the same state as I am, which we're built-in compassionate beings. Mm-hmm. Interesting starts to come in when you actually start to look at yourself, because now there's nothing else to anchor onto. There's nothing but you and you and you. Mm. So eventually your system's trying to calibrate and understand and rationalize and what's going on. And then eventually you'll hit that point and you're going to start to like feel your hands get sweaty and you start tingling in your body and you start moving around. That's when you know you've hit like that subconscious belief pattern. And you just suddenly like the face melts around you and you're just directly looking, like you said, into the eyes of the eyes of the eyes of you. Mm-hmm. And what you've really done is just shed all of this external persona, the act that we've been playing. And this is so real for me right now because I'm going through this transformational season in my life where I've been doing work like this and asking myself, what is the act that I'm playing right now? And is this act really fulfilling my authentic self? So a lot of what I've been doing is intense breath work and breaking down those barriers and really looking at myself. Like I have a mirror right next to my desk right here. So if I ever go into like working with clients and things like that, it's no longer how can I spread and teach somebody? It's like, how can I serve them to fulfill them? How can I love them? I'm not here to teach you. I'm here to love you with my unique and genuine love. Love will be the thing that teaches you, which sounds extremely etheric for somebody that does neuroscience and brain-based wellness. But that's what our system's really designed and calibrated to do, is to sync up and link and connect and inspire, and just do that out of this space of like endless creativity. So if we can always get back to that point and remember like what is like the big purpose on this game board, and find that answer for you, because it's going to be different for you versus me versus the neighbor versus my kid and all these different things. You can go down that rabbit hole and ask yourself, so what is my purpose today? How have I defined success this year? And just see what comes up for you on a piece of paper, in the mirror, talking to yourself, recording it on an audio in the car. I did that a lot, and just would listen to it and see what was coming up. Did it sound authentic? Did I like what was coming through? What was really going on in the system? That's how you really get to those root-based belief systems, is just doing some of that awkward, nasty work that pulls out those personas and like lets you really shed the expectation of who you think you are meant to be. And even though like I have an extraordinary life right now, people look in and say, wow, you've like made it type of thing. I still have my work to do, right? I still wake up every single morning, 5 a.m., hour of meditation, mindfulness, yoga, asking myself, how am I going to define success today? Is there anything that's really coming up for me that I want to take a look at and heal? And it's like, yeah, there's definitely some stuff that still needs some TLC. There's definitely some dark parts of the soul that like just need some loving on, but they've all been created with a purpose and something to serve me. And that's a lot of what this research in neurobiology and neuropsychology is showing us, that all these personas that we create, they're not bad. They're us. They're just trying to protect us.
Yeah, totally. I love it. Yeah. That back to the mirror real quick, because for me, that was the moment, right? That just snapped everything in my whole reality shift just that day. And yeah, it took time. You know, I was doing mirror work probably for 40 days, quite intensely, you know, 3-4 times a day, 5-minute sessions, crying a lot in the mirror, looking at yourself, talking, asking yourself these questions that are just so strange to ask yourself. But over time it becomes, it's like, okay, well, I'm just ask myself these questions again today and see what comes up. And I was writing it down just like you say, and I was doing audio notes in my phone. And then I was also planning my next move, because I had lost, you know, we lost our businesses, and we lost our income, and we lost our lifestyle, and we were in a foreign country, and, you know, we were thinking like, what are we going to do next? Right. We were in Asia at the time. And I was thinking like, what's my next move? Right. And it was online entrepreneur. I want to be able to work from my computer, and I want to serve that way. I want to impact more people was the main thing. I wanted to get my message out and help people on a bigger scale. And I knew the internet would help me with that. I didn't know how, I didn't know what with, but I knew that was the vehicle. So I was trying to figure out what to do, and I was writing it down, and I was doing voice notes, and I was listening to them, like you say. And I realized that I didn't like a lot of what I heard, because I was coming from a place of scarcity. I was coming from a place of desperation, because I was technically desperate at that moment. Looking back on it, I know that I felt desperate. I wasn't literally desperate, because that's a myth also, but I felt it then. And it comes through in those voice notes. I was like, I'm going to do this, and then it's going to lead to that, and then I'm going to get that, and then it's going to pay me this much money, and then I can pay off that debt, and then this. And it was like, I did it that way. Now, from working through the process, I completely look at it from a completely different lens. It's about serving. It's about impact. And when you do that, the money just flows. You don't have to think about the money. It's not about the money.
Such a side effect, right? When
it's
you
a side
can
effect.
get into that work, like you've invested and cultivated so much in yourself that the money just comes. And that's what's so incredible. I've been going through, like I've said, just some challenging experiences, some emotional experiences. So for a short period of time, I just closed down my coaching business. I have like a couple private clients that I'm still working with. But when I was able to start expressing a lot of what was coming through and a lot of the lessons that I've been learning, I went and looked at my email, just waiting. They're like, I'm connecting with this message so much.
Yeah, exactly. Cool, man. So you mentioned meditation and yoga and all these things, and I'm a huge fan. I meditate and do that stuff every day as well. I don't do as much yoga as I should. My wife, she loves yoga, and we used to do yoga together daily, and I've gotten away from it, and I really need to get back on it. I'll do some tomorrow. As soon as today I'm booked up. Maybe I'll do some tonight before bed. I'll stretch.
That's it.
I'll do
tomorrow
some.
Never comes.
Tomorrow never comes. Exactly. The first thing as soon as I said the word tomorrow, I realized that's bullshit. What am I talking? But talk to us a little bit about your morning routine. How's that look?
Yeah. So a lot of what I've recognized is that I really like the newness of things and being able to have a new page every day to write on. So I go into my mornings every day, same time, 5 a.m., wake up, because my brain is going to go from that deep delta brainwave, which is just a very slow beat, right? This is the rest and recover. It's going to go into theta. And then from theta, you go from alpha, and alpha, you go into beta. Beta is very awake. It's like you and I hanging out right now. But inside of that theta is a really extraordinary portion where you're kind of in that daydreamy state. So as soon as I wake up, I take 10 really deep breaths. I do 50 calf raises, and then I sit down on my meditation pillow right next to my bed. And I sit there and set a 10-minute timer, and I visualize the craziest, most magical, love-filled, perfect day that I possibly can. And I experience it and feel it and think about it 10 minutes, super, super hard. Because inside of that theta brainwave, inside of that, it's a reality. My nervous system cannot tell the difference. I am actually living in that moment. I'm actually living in that magical experience. And what that's doing neurochemically is filling the buckets for those hormones so that when I do experience it in the day, I have this just overwhelming feeling of gratitude and inspiration and peace. And what I'm also doing is triggering the system to start to look for those things, because I know the default system is going to kick in if I don't design my day. So now it's like, okay, how can I absolutely have this beautifully peaceful day? Like, what am I looking for? And a lot of it is just setting this emotional influence that I'm looking for, an emotional intention. Like, what do I want to feel today? Today, I was like, I really want to feel this feeling of flow, just being in this effortless effort. And boom, like you and I having this conversation, it's just like, this is so rich and so beautiful, and just allowing each other to like pour into this conversation. Like, cool, like system found it, system was primed for it. And then the bucket just gets dumped over in abundance. And I'm just experiencing this awesome thing. So after I do that, what's really fantastic about doing a visualization right when you get up and really experiencing the emotion is that those chemicals have a half-life. So what I do after that is I put on something called an inner balance, which is reading my heart rate variability. And heart rate variability is just a really good, how well is your brain connected to your body? So I'm having some kind of neurofeedback, and I do that for 15 minutes while all that neurochemistry is bathing my body and my brain in this. And what it's doing is starting to wire and connect new ideas with the same experience. So I'm experiencing things in a new and exciting way. After that, I take 15 minutes and I sit there and I write down questions in my journal. Right now, because I'm going through something a little bit different, it used to be like, how can I serve my clients? How can I influence? How can I make an impact? Now it's, how can I experience love today? How can I share that love today? And what is my heart saying is the truth? And how can I spread joy? And I ask those questions to myself, and I take the time to actually sit down and write them. And then I go through, I look at my calendar really quickly, and all right, these are some of the to-do lists that I have. And then I'll do a quick 15 minutes of BS yoga. I'm not good at yoga, but I'm getting better every single day. And then I usually go downstairs and I'll kind of start doing a little bit more mind work, right? So I'll start writing journal articles or things like that, connect to some of my clients. If any like content, I want to write a blog post, things like that. I'm just really getting the ball rolling. But I've created that emotional influence in my system. So now I have this extraordinary, beautiful lens that I can just live my life through. Like my system is very aligned, and now I'm just being pulled in this extraordinary direction of like, yeah, this is the day that you wanted, and this is where you're going to go now. So journaling's been huge for me in that regard ever since day one. And I can ask myself, what is it that I want? Because the act of writing something down, you'll never write it down the same way. So if I could do that and see and feel and interact with things differently every single day, things get really, really interesting and really, really fun because you get new insights and new perspectives every single day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. When you say you hop out of bed, 50 calf raises, you're talking about sitting on the edge of your bed?
No, I'm standing up when I'm doing that. So I take 10 deep breaths, feet on the floor, sitting in my bed, deep diaphragm breaths. Like what I'm really trying to do is just get some oxygen in the system, because I know that my body has pushed all of like the trash and stuff from the other day into my lymphatic system. And the only way to move that lymphatic system is getting some of the muscles and getting that diaphragm, which can keep your breath moving around.
Yeah.
So I'll get that moving, and then I'll get the blood moving a little bit with 50 calf raises, standing up, and then I immediately go sit on my meditation cushion and set 10-minute timer. And I have like a 9-minute, 47-second piano song that I listen to.
Cool.
And then by the time that's done, I'm going on to my next one.
Nice. Yeah. Like two things I want to talk about there. I want to break this down because morning routine, win the morning, win the day. It's simply that easy, right? It really is, right? For me also a game changer. When I went through that stuff back then, the thing that changed for our family and the thing that changed was the mornings. I went from sleeping in depressed, down on my life to getting up at 5 or 6, going for a run with the dog, reading, journaling. Like it was a complete shift, and it all happened that day with the mirror. That was the day. So one of the things I got into then also was the small trampoline. I would wake up and jump on that bad boy. So that's the same concept as the calf raises, right? You're getting the lymph system full.
Getting the blood moving. The rebounder and the small trampoline is super, super good. Yeah. And the other thing that you guys can do at home, if you don't have those things, is like called Qigong, like bouncing. And what you do is get on the ball of your feet and you just bounce up and down, and like you'll start to feel your wrists moving around. But that's really just moving all the jellies in your system around. It's moving that viscera around and getting like some of the muscles activated. And your body hasn't moved for like 6 to 8 hours, hopefully 8 hours for most of us. Let's wake it up. Let's be gentle. Let's be intentional, right? So like doing those types of things, it's really small, but it makes a very, very big difference. Especially it stacks up, right? 1% a day eventually is going to make this monstrous change.
Absolutely. And when you speak about the 10 minutes of mindful meditation, and you're essentially putting yourself in the state of it's happened already. You're in it. You're living it for the day. When you say you're prepared, you're thinking of your magical, wonderful day, right? My question is, are you thinking about things that you want to do, you will do, probably do, or in an alternative reality, like my best possible day, even though rationally, that's not going to happen today, but I would love for it to, but rationally it's like, oh, I would love to climb Mount Everest. That'd be a great day for me. I would feel accomplished. Are you thinking about things that you're going to do that day? Or are you thinking like big all over the place?
Yeah, that's a really, really beautiful question. You can do the same thing every single day and you can experience it new every single day. So a lot of the things that I'm doing every single day, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to meal prep breakfast for my family. I'm going to go downstairs. The only thing that's going to change, or that should or can change, is going to be the experience that you bring to the table. And I know that experience is just a cocktail of neurochemistry. So what I want to do is fill up my cup with that neurochemistry. I want to be able to experience those things. So if you need to fill yourself up with that emotion and just live in this alternative reality to create that emotion inside of you, it's going to do the same thing that you're going to do. Where people will really start to fail and where personal development needs to have the line drawn is you're like, okay, I'm going to go to Hawaii, live on the beach, in the jungle with all of these things. You're putting too much stretch in the system. You're putting too much new information in, and your system is extraordinarily smart, and it'll call BS on that. And what it'll do inside of like that too much stretch, like if you try to go down and touch your hamstrings and you just haven't worked or stretched out in a long time, you're going to get that monstrous pull and you won't be able to hold it long. The fix to that is doing something really simple, really small gratitude practice that'll get you tuned back in and being grateful for something that you already have. Because when you can do that, it's going to pull down the BS meter and it's going to say, okay, well, yeah, I already have this. And then you can take that experience and that emotion of gratitude and carry it over into things that might not be physical in your world yet. But for you to have the opportunity and the motivation, you need to experience it as if it's already happened. But having that gratitude as a trigger, if you ever find yourself in a visualization or in these mindfulness techniques or journaling or something like that, a quick gratitude practice will check your nervous system back in and say, well, yeah, I do have a lot to be grateful for. This is a really beautiful experience. And it'll take down that, no way, this is never going to happen. It's giving you a little bit of leeway for that stretch.
Okay, that makes sense. I love it. That was something I pulled from one of Tony Robbins' books back in the day. I read three things you're grateful for in the morning the second you wake up, whether it's like, you know, your loved one beside you, your health, roof over your head, your dog, the wind in your face, like just small things that you're grateful for. And one of my mentors who's awesome. I mean, awesome. Obviously, people are awesome. He said a quote once, and I put it here in front of my computer, and it just sits there. It's just there every day. It says, "I'm grateful for what I have, and I'm excited about what's coming."
Ooh,
and I think that's pretty much what you're saying right now, right? That's
a lot of it. Yeah, that's the game of it, I would say, is if you can gamify things and have like things exciting like that, absolutely. But yeah, be excited of the potential that can come from this. And there's a really great book that's on the shelf behind me by Sean Anker, The Happiness Advantage, that talks about people that are happy and grateful and have all of these things around them. They have like higher paying jobs. Their immune system is boosted. Like your system is reacting to the way you are thinking and feeling. And if you can constantly remind yourself that your system will default to survival and fear, and is that the life you want to live? Do you want to be confined and restricted by limitations that you don't create? Or do you want to open up the pasture doors and let the cows out? Like, it's up to you. Do you want to go out and define yourself by what you can't do? Or do you want to live that endless potential life? Like, you are designed to experience everything and anything that you want. The only thing that'll ever stop you is that fear. And unfortunately, that's our default setting. So doing things like meditation will shut down that area of the brain called the limbic system, which connects to your amygdala, which fires up that fear response. And for most of us, that thing's hyper reactive. So your brain does something really simple. It takes in stimulus, and then it looks for anything in the past that matches even remotely close to that experience. And it goes back and looks through that old memory, and then it attempts to predict the future based on past events. That happens default if you don't put up a blockade. But like we're doing right now, you can be consciously aware and say, okay, I'm taking in this stimulus, and yes, it takes work, but I can see myself comparing it to the past, and that's actually not how I would choose to feel. This is living a mindful life. And what it'll start to do is downregulate that amygdala. So instead of information going straight to the brainstem where you have these overreactive fear responses and things are just reactive and reflexive, now you send it up to the frontal cortex. And that's where you are. That's where your personality, your inspiration, your motivation, all those creative ideas happen. And that's where a lot of alpha brainwave starts to be produced from. And alpha brainwave, for you guys out there, it's just where creativity and inspiration live. And you start to get cross-hemispheric connection. So now you're connecting new ideas in ways that you haven't thought about before, and old ideas in new and creative ways that you've never experienced before. So when you can start to put that blockade up, you'll take in the same stimulus that you've done 1,000 times. But now, instead of just being reflexive, you're going to look, think, interact, and feel with it at a totally different level. And that's what a lot of us are having challenges with right now, because we're in this age of information. So we bring in, and we'll shelf it, right? Like, I'll do it tomorrow. It's like it all becomes shelf help. If you can do something right now to experience a different reality from this information whatsoever, like whatever that may be, that's when you start to become the conscious creator of your reality again. You can really start to do something, and you're just shifting that information into a new way. It's going to the area that it should be going, to that frontal cortex.
Amazing. Yeah. Would I be right if I broke that down simply by saying you want to be the observer, not the participant, with the way you're reacting or responding to stimuli?
Yeah. So there's two different ways that you can kind of go about it. You can live a mindful life, which is everything we just talked about, right? So you'll
Mm-hmm.
take in the stimulus and you'll say, okay, is this something that I actually like want to interact with? No, you can toss it away. You can just observe it, say thanks, bye bye though. Or you can really start to implement like meditation practices. And what this is doing is training that subconscious pattern, training the experiences to come through, and then finding and tagging things that are important. So like you get emails, some of it goes to the spam bucket and some of it goes to your inbox, right? What mindfulness really does and what meditation does extraordinarily well is tags the things that you want to focus on. Because default setting, boom, tag it with fear, put it right up in your forefront. Let's take a really close look. Let's analyze, let's overthink, let's overanalyze, let's overthink. And we have something called the negativity bias, which just says if something's bad, we're going to make it worse and worse. And let's overthink about it. Now suddenly you're seeing it and visualizing it. That's the default, right? Because something was challenging your survival, technically, is what your brain thinks. So if it's challenging our survival, I don't want to ever run into that again. So I want to make it as bad and as terrible and as awful as humanly possible. This is what happens a lot with PTSD, just unintegrated trauma that we make worse and worse and worse. And the research coming out on PTSD and mindfulness and meditation is extraordinary for allowing those emotions to be put through the system and not judged, but just observed. And by doing that, it's really giving you the opportunity to change your neural circuitry. So that instead of all of this being tagged as fear and put right into the inbox, all this fear that's coming through, because there's fear around us all the live long day, you just choose not to focus on it now. It's just not up at the forefront. So things that you actually care about, like good times with your family and being present and just really loving yourself and good relationships, now you are subconsciously tagging those and putting those in the forefront. That's why doing the work every single day is so crucial, because if not, you'll just slip back down to that default setting. And then suddenly a day goes by and a week goes by and a month goes by and a year and a decade. Now you're, oh my gosh, what happened to my life type of thing. It takes that recalibration process to bring back up what's important and then put that into the system. So now you're living through those programs again.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, it's the default setting. That's the key word, default.
Yep.
Right? That's the natural setting. You need to fight it every day or you'll slide right back into it, right?
That's exactly it. And it's not to say that it's a bad system, right? It's not like we're designed to fail and just stuck and be unhealthy. No way. If you go to like the Sahara, the Africa, like if you go to the plains of Africa, right? You watch a gazelle get chased by a lion. Okay, did the gazelle get away? Good, cool, that's awesome. Now what's the gazelle doing 5 minutes later? It's back to that rest and digest. It's eating again, right? It's returned to its natural state because it doesn't, like us, have that frontal cortex that attaches and grabs on and says, okay, that was a bad experience. What we do really, really well as humans is grab on and attach to emotional experiences. And then we build our belief systems around them. And that default setting wants to hold on, where naturally animals just let go. They don't care. Kids do this. We all did this. But as we continue to grow and continue to develop, we really build in these programs that aren't trying to hurt us. They're trying to protect us. But I believe that they're protecting us so that they can allow us to experience better things down the road. Like, I don't think we're just designed to survive, right? We have survival software 1000%, but we also have this really beautiful creative software, right? So that we can create and inspire. And you and I have like 99.99999 the same genetic expression, and you and I couldn't be any different, right? Like, it's totally up to you how you want to design your life and design even your body for that matter. I mean, there's a researcher, Fritz Albert Popp, that showed that our system and our cells communicate with biophotons. We're constantly sending photons back and forth to each other. Well, where's a lot of those photons originating from? From the food we eat, the thoughts we think, and the emotions we experience. But the primary one that we never turn off is that central nervous system. It's constantly pushing out different signals, different noise, different brain waves. So you can start to ask yourself, well, if I'm thinking and I'm constantly in this fear state, it's essentially going down the expressway in first gear and never shifting out. Yeah, your cells are going to have a really fast turnover. You have like a new liver every 7 weeks. You get new skin every day. You get new taste buds every 4 days. Your hair grows every 28, right? Like, your body is constantly cycling. So every like 2.5-ish years, you have a brand new body. It's just, what body are you choosing to make? Do you want somebody that's uplifted and inspired and happy? Like when you really talk to people that are plugged in and connected, they have this weird glow, right? It's because they're literally bioluminescent. Like their body is exchanging photons at such an efficient rate that they're quite literally glowing. Like pregnant women are a really great example. Like they're just in this boundless state of like, life is good. Like I'm just pregnant and happy. And like there's all these hormones are running through and like, they're just glowing and probably some sweat too. Like it's just the way it works.
That's true, eh? Yeah, that's true. Okay, here's a question. This has kind of baffled me when I hear people say the brain is plasticity.
Yeah.
What do people mean when they say that?
So neuroplasticity, in my opinion, is one of the greatest discoveries that we ever have come across in our generation's time. And what it really says is that the brain has the ability to change and mold itself. We always thought that you are doomed by your circumstances, that you're doomed by your genetics. And that's just not true, right? We had this idea that 97% of our genetics was like junk genetics. But really what it was unactivated genetic code, right? So you have genetics to express in your cells for when you have the flu. And it'll express a higher immune system because your system's under attack. So now those genetics are going to be activated. It's not who you've been downloaded into this body as, it's who you choose to show up as. You have boundless potential. It's just, who do you choose to see yourself as? So you can choose to be the victim and have things say like, this was bad, this happened to me. But we have so many case studies and so many different research studies that are showing that even if you've had a really hard upbringing or a really hard challenge, or I mean, the challenges that I've gone through, they should have defined my life. They should have said, this is you. And yeah, I've changed my nervous system with my nervous system, right? So instead of saying I'm a victim, life is happening to me, I've put new information into the system. So neuroplasticity is really just the brain's ability to change itself. And it's beautifully constructed so that we don't have to live in that fear cascade system all the time, because that's not what we're designed to do. It's our default, but our design is to build, inspire, communicate. I mean, there's a book called The Influential Mind written by a neuroscientist that really talks about how we are meant to create and inspire. And when you have conversations like you and I are having, you start to drop dopamine off in receptor sites that have to do with community. And we literally become addicted to it. Like dopamine reinforces that reward cascade. So you become literally addicted to sharing information. That's like a default setting that we have as well. It's just, is that being turned on, right? Or are you just living in life's hard, 9 to 5, this and that? You can have a heck of a beautiful 9 to 5 job and live inspired. It's a choice every single day. And that's what essentially neuroplasticity is telling us. It's a choice. Do you want to put in a little bit of work and learn to fly, or do you just want to continue to fall and let just the energy of gravity pull you down?
Gotcha. Wow. And the nice thing is that, I mean, that's scientifically proven now, right?
Time. Yeah.
Time and
that's why
time
I
again.
love neuroscience so much, is it's proving so much of what the mystics and the ancients have known for a long time. But that's why I love this research, why I've dedicated a lot of my life to it, because it's the proof of it, right? So much over and over we can repeat. We have studies of this. Now I have like neurofeedback devices in my home that can turn on this type of thing, and I can feel it in my body, what it feels like, and have those things. I mean, it's a really beautiful time to be alive. You can truly be what it is you think you are. Like the only thing that's going to stop you is that fear, is that doubt that you can't do it. But that's just fear knocking on the door. If you push up against it, it's not going to hold up.
I love it. Spot on. Okay, so let's change gears a little bit and talk business. Okay.
Let's do it.
How did you discover your current business direction?
Oh my goodness, this is a heck of a story. So I never thought I would be a professional speaker. I never thought I'd be a consultant. I didn't think I'd be a coach. I didn't think I'd be any of those things. I thought I'd just go finish up with school, do the practice, and do all that. In my dark time, as I'm sure a lot of us can relate to, it's near impossible to sleep, right? You close your eyes, but you don't rest. So knowing that, what I ended up doing is putting myself on an Uberman sleep schedule. And what I would do is take 5 20-minute naps throughout the day. Guys, don't do this. It's awful. It was good for me in the short term, but I just couldn't sleep. But what I could do is take a $5 bill in the middle of the day, go to the Goodwill, get about 15 books, and take them to the Waffle House at night, get a really shitty $2 cup of coffee, and I learned to do something called photo read. So I could essentially digest a book in about 30 to 35 minutes.
Wow.
And what it's really doing is your conscious mind can perceive about 15 to 25 bits of information a second. Pretty okay. Your subconscious is the other 95% of your nervous system. This is perceiving, interacting, communicating with about 10 to 15 billion bits of information a second.
Wow.
There's about 500 words, a lot less on most pages. If I could borrow a very small sliver of that subconscious mind to scan books, great. Now I just need to flex the muscle to pull the information through. So it took me like a couple months to learn how to do this. It's definitely not easy, but what I could do is just crush books, and I would take in a ton of information and it would stick. So I knew it. And then it was just learning to do it. So it was about midnight, 1 a.m.-ish on a Thursday night, and I'm just crushing books. I look like that crazy person in the Waffle House. I had a stack of like 15 books and like 4 coffee cups, and I'm just crushing books. I have my legal pen and this blue Bic pen, and I'm just taking notes and crushing books. And 6 business gentlemen walk in, suits, ties, really, really nice cars, all of that, to like a Waffle House at midnight. So it's me and them, and they just see me just like crushing these books. And at the end of their meal, they come over and they're like, we all have bets on what it is you're doing. I think the stock market, these guys think you're just crazy. Do you speak English? Like, what's going on? So I ended up communicating with them, and it's just like, no, like I'm going through this challenge in my life right now, and I want to be different. So these are all personal development, neuroscience, and business books. So I'm trying to develop a better me. And they're like, well, tell us a little bit more about that. Like, how are you reading this number of books in like 5 hours? I'm like, well, here's how I'm doing it. Long story short, it was the board of directors for a company that had just finished with a board meeting, and they're doing this redevelopment and restructuring of their company. So they're like, okay, can you come to our company and consult tomorrow and just talk everything you just said? Can you go do it again? And I was like, yeah, sure. What's consulting? And they're like, basically, I just need you to come in and say the same thing over and just do what you did. Wear something like pretty okay. And I was like, whatever. Yeah, I've got some time. So I went in there, ended up consulting for the first time ever, and just brought the house down in a way with a bunch of suit and ties, explaining to them how like stress is perceived in the body and how to rewire and re-educate your nervous system to experience a new emotional reality so that you can have more happiness, because more happiness means you are more productive. You access flow, and like the research on flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, 500% more productivity. Yeah, I can get all my work done on Monday and I don't have to work the rest of the week. Yeah, I'll do that too. So I started to go through those concepts. And that was when I got my like first coaching client. He's like, can I just call you like once a month and just talk about this stuff? And like, can you help me? And I was like, well, yeah, I guess. Like, what do you mean? He's like, okay, here's a check. Here's $25,000. I'm just going to call you like every like 2 weeks. And I was like, whoa, man. I'm like 22, don't know what I'm doing. This is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I ended up like taking the check, and I went outside and I just sat with myself for a minute, and I went back in and I was like, why do you want to do this? And he's like, I think that connecting to this is going to make me better able to help my sales team sell more product. And I said, that's very beautiful. That's a very noble task. That's not in alignment with what I'm doing and how I'm choosing to live my life. And I gave him the check back. One of the other board members saw me do this, walked me out to my car, said, I've never seen somebody have so much integrity in my life. What I'd like you to do is come to my sister company and do the same thing you just did today, and we're going to pay you $5,000 for it. I went to that company, ended up pulling on like 4 or 5 private clients, and that's just kind of how the ball got started. total accident. And now I've had the pleasure of working with people all the way from Wall Street to Washington State. I've worked with potato farmers and like CEOs and executives. I got the pleasure to work with a couple billionaires about how to do this. And all of it is research based. And a lot of what I do now is showing people that mindset doesn't have to just stay in the mind. I can actually prove it. And a lot of the things that I do with my private clients now is I introduce them to biofeedback. So I'm wearing this device right now that's monitoring all day my oxygen saturation, my resting heart rate, my heart HR variability, my nervous system, all these different things. So at the end of the day, I can look and say, did my system grow? Do I need to rest? Did my meditations work? Am I really living through passion? Or is my body, as a projection of the subconscious mind, reverting back? I want to go forward. So some days I do want it to crash, and some days I do want to have that stretch. So now I can look and say, okay, today your system's totally crashed. What you need more today is rest and digest and chill and relax. So I can have my clients send me their information, and then I can educate them and empower them and show them, okay, so you see how your oxygen's really low today, but your heart rate's really high. What your system's really doing is in this cardiac overload. That's going to really shut down your ability to be creative. So I know you still have to go to your 9 to 5. Don't worry about that. But today, if you can focus on getting some of the busy work done and not as much creative work, your creative aspect, your creative nervous system will probably be back online tomorrow, and it'll be way more efficient than it is today. So don't go after the emails today. Don't go after writing copy. I want you to go after something different. So I started being able to do that, and then case study after case study. If you work it, it works, right? And it's just been a really beautiful journey ever since to where I am now, scaling this business faster than I ever could have imagined, to like living in like the dream location that I always wanted, getting my daughter to the school that she absolutely loves. I get to go out and paddleboard most mornings and hang out with the dolphins and like stuff like that. It's just been truly extraordinary. But if you open yourself up to those opportunities, if you do the work, you change yourself, and that gives the world permission to see you differently. Then the world starts to change around you because you are different. Like if I go out and I have a t-shirt and shorts on, like I'm not embodying the person that I'm trying to create. I also don't have the emotion, the energy behind it. So people are going to interact with me a little bit differently. So it's, can you show up for yourself, and then only show up for yourself because the world will respond to you. And then how can you enhance the lives of others? That's what selling should, in my opinion, be all about. How can I help you enhance yourself?
Exactly. Spot on. You mind if you, what is that bracelet? What's that bracelet?
It's called a BioStrap. So
BioStrap.
Yeah, there's a reason I use this company. They are truly, truly extraordinary for a lot of different reasons. The main one is that all the sensors that it has and the light that it uses is red light. So because we're inside so much and we have the computers, and for a lot of entrepreneurs, blue blockers are really important, but your red blood cells take the light as a signal source, send it through your nervous system up to your brain, and it drops those photons off, and it reads them and essentially scans them as the blood goes by to a portion of your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Most of the information comes through sunlight and the way that our eyes are perceiving this information. But blue light should technically only come through as a primary spectrum of light at solar noon. So the highest portion of the day sunlight, you get those direct parallel lights coming down from the sun. We have the Apple Watches, and they're using blue-green light. So you're constantly getting that slow drip of hormones telling us it's the middle of the day. Same thing goes with TV, same thing goes with our phone, all those different things. So what it's doing is producing a chemical called cortisol. And cortisol is our fight or flight. You get little drips of it and you get a lot of it, but that little drip of it is drawing nutrition and blood away from your digestive tract, from your brain, from all these essential organs. So you're going to have poor digestion. You're going to have poor thought, poor recovery, poor rest. This red light, while not perfect, don't get me wrong, is, in my opinion, a better alternative than having the blue-green light.
Oh, man. So I mean, I wear those blue light blocker glasses, like at nighttime before I'm going to go to bed or whatever, for a couple hours before bed.
Absolutely.
Should somebody be wearing those like all day long? Because for example, me as an example, right now I'm staring at a circle light for my face, as you probably are too. maybe not, I don't know, and a computer screen, right? My phone is there, notifications and stuff popping up all the time, blinking at me. This is like a blue light show here. So
For sure.
it's all day. This is your office.
Yeah.
So should a person be wearing blue light glasses throughout the day, do you think? Or what's your opinion there?
Yeah, so it's an interesting conversation. So I am right now in front of a window.
Oh,
So
I
I'm getting
wish. I love
a
it. It's
lot of
dark here.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of natural light through there. And I'm also 3 times in the day triggering my system with natural sunlight as naked as I possibly can be without freaking out my neighbors, right? So sunrise, I'm anchoring that because that spectrum that's coming off and the infrared that I'm getting from the sunrise is actually where you produce melatonin. You produce
Mm,
melatonin in the morning and then you store it throughout the day. And then at sunrise, when you're getting that spectrum and color that the sunrise, those beautiful colors, it actually starts to drip that melatonin. So you'll naturally get sleepy throughout the day. So I'll have those and then I'll check solar noon, which is typically when my little girl takes a nap in the day. So I'll go outside and I'll sunbathe for like 20 minutes and read a book or meditate outside. So I anchor myself with those 3 things. And then I do as many activities as I can outside. So there's a door that goes to a patio out there I can work in, and I have an outside studio if I need to go. And I live, in South Carolina on the beach, so I can go outside all the time and do all those types of things. So try to be outside and as active as possible. And I also get that that's challenging. So if you can't, try out the blue blockers. There's something called Uvex glasses. They look ugly as heck, but they're like $9 on Amazon. Try it out for a month and see how your sleep quality is. And if it gets better, cool. Maybe time to invest in like a better pair. So maybe your partner doesn't think you're crazy because they are like workman glasses. They're amber.
yeah, mine are amber as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel less eye strain just in general when I
For
wear
sure.
those.
So blue light, really super quick, goes through the eye. And as it goes through the eye jelly, vitreous humor, is actually going to cause it to diffuse all the different colors, kind of like a prism would do. So if we have a primary blue coming in, what it's doing is taking up a lot of that jelly and dehydrating it. So what you need to do is rehydrate that. And a lot of what that vitreous humor needs is really clean water. So not getting tap water, but getting good spring clean water. And it also needs high amounts of omega-3. So in the blue zones where people very often live to 100 years old, they have a lot of omega-3s in their diet, clean fishes, beans, legumes, nuts, seeds, things like that. What they're doing and why they're doing so well with all the age of technology is they're reproducing and putting back a lot of the things that technology is kind of taking away from us.
Wow. It's interesting. What would you say to somebody who works predominantly at night?
That's a super hard one. Because the instant answer is like, stop working at night. Like it's so bad for your health that it's super, super hard because you have to, like we talked about, your system communicates with biophotons, right? And it needs to have the proper amount of energy spectrum. Like it needs to have all the physics behind that. And our system's designed with 3 primary health factors in mind that have evolved for the last billion years of cellular existence: light from the sun, magnetics from the earth, and water from what's around us, right? And we have water inside of all of our cells. If you are doing things at night, you are breaking the laws of nature, and by default, you will live a challenging existence. Not saying that you can't do it, but if you do, you're going to have to find some healthy alternatives around that. So having a healthy diet that's consisting of a lot of omega-3s to replenish a lot of like the light that you're getting, because most lights in a factory are going to be those just really nasty like fluorescent lights. Those are really bad for your health. It's sending that signal, lots of cortisol, right? So a lot of the symptoms, you're going to have fatigue, and then you need energy drinks, and the sugar in the energy drinks and the caffeine is going to dehydrate you further, and then you're going to drink bad water. And is there really good food in the venue? Like it's a nasty cascade. So if you can find it in your heart to like either make a shift change or get to a different job, it's going to cost you so much in medical bills down the road to try to like, all right, now like my low back's giving out because like the cells in your low back, like in between those discs are like a gelatinous humor, like type of thing. Like they need clean water, sunlight, and magnetics to properly flux and get the water in there, along with proper movement and biomechanics. If you're taking away like the natural, good, clean water that you should be getting, which gets produced at a higher level when we have clean water and it's getting hit by the sun in our cells, now you have dehydrated discs in your spine. And that's causing a whole different, like low back pain, so common. And I'm not saying that you don't need to go to the chiropractor, like see a chiropractor. The number one thing I think you can do for health is go see a chiropractor, plain and simple, like check the research. It's insane. Absolutely insane with brain function, this and that, and drink some clean water, get some freaking sun.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Listen to our moms when we were kids, right?
Right,
go
exactly.
play outside, drink some water.
Street lights are on, come home, right?
Exactly. When the street lights are on, come home. That's amazing. Okay, cool, man. I want to be respectful of your time here. I've taken a lot of your precious time there. I don't want to keep you inside too long. I want you to go outside, paddleboard, and enjoy your day.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate your time, man. You're very knowledgeable. I can understand clearly that you were taking in hundreds of books. It's quite obvious. And it's been a pleasure, really. Before we go, my, I guess, last question, not real question, but what is a transformation that you've seen in yourself that maybe you didn't expect?
Oh my goodness. I'm learning this literally in the moment as this is going. I created this persona around what I thought Chris needed to survive. And I built a belief around that I'm a solo entrepreneur, that I can do things alone, that I'm isolated, that I'm alone. And it's been hiding in this dark cave. And I've been living in that dark cave. Haven't let really anybody in, no love in, no love out type of thing. That's why a lot of the journaling prompts that I have are, how can I experience love? Because all the work that I'm doing has finally allowed me to shed these things off and ask, what is it that I really want? And a lot of what I really want is deep, committed relationships and connection with somebody that can support me. So I don't have to be perfect all the time. I can have bad days. I can have hard days, because there's just days that I just really miss my dad. And there's days that parenting's just freaking hard. And I've never in my life wanted to have that kind of connection. And I never thought that I really would. And now that I've been able to peel back those layers and say that I really want that kind of commitment, relationship, and camaraderie, and just all the craziness that comes with it, it's both absolutely terrifying for me. And the people, now that I've opened myself up, the people that have been coming into my life and the people that have been connecting with me and the way that I've been feeling has no words to it. It's such a beautiful thing when you're able to shed those layers and open yourself up and just allow some people just to hold me for a second. It's been beautiful, scary as hell, but it's been beautiful.
That's awesome. Dr. Chris Lee. Chris, if the listeners of the Growth Podcast want to find you, learn about your services, get to know you better, where can they find you?
Absolutely. So you can find me at Dr. Chris Lee on Facebook. My Instagram handle is Dr. Chris Lee, no periods, Dr. Chris Lee. If you want to check my website out, some of the information is on there. And that website is Dr. fully spelled out chrislee.com. And I got a little present for you guys that is going to show you how to unlock your beliefs and change your happiness thermostat, that I am sure our dear and beloved host will put in the show notes for you guys, that I'm sure you'll love.
Absolutely. It will be in the show notes. All right. Thank you so much for your time, Chris. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks, brother.